This is the Out of Time Film Podcast, where your hosts Tom and John discuss everything from blockbuster films to TV and games like there's no tomorrow. Hello and welcome to the Out of Time Film Podcast. My name is Tom, and as always, I'm joined with my co-host John.
Hi, hello.
And this week we are talking about Echo.
This is another installment of the MCU, but this one is like a special showcase.
Yeah, so this is a Marvel Spotlight. I don't know if this is supposed to be the same thing as the special presentations or if this is something different, but I remember when this was announced, they said something along the lines of like, these are going to be smaller stories that are more character focused and less bothered with like the ongoing narrative.
Yeah, I agree with that because with this, I thought it was a great way of opening up about the main protagonist throughout the story, you know, how she feels. This was a strange rollout for Echo because this one was just released all in one day. Like, no weekly releases, you know, we have like episodes for Loki or Hawkeye, you know, that was just bringing up all the hype. But this one, it was just released all in one day, which I found really strange because they would have had like huge potential to, you know, market something that is really celebrating all kinds of culture with Maya's indigenous tribe and, you know, with the past and with the ancestors, but also with the deaf representation as well. That could have been a lot of like focus onto that as well, especially with the poster. They've done a really cool design with the poster for Echo, which eventually I've been seeing is in American Sign Language, but they've done it like that, and it was just so cool to see. So yeah, Echo, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a difficult one because this really could have gone wrong in the sense that one of the big problems that we have with every Marvel show since WandaVision is that they're released weekly, and every single week Twitter goes crazy and they're like, oh my God, next week we're going to get
Mephisto.
Mephisto's coming. And when it came to Hawkeye, it was all, you know, like Kingpin's going to be there. And then I remember in the finale, people were like, Spider-Man's going to be in there. And when it came to this show, like with the marketing and everything, everyone was just really excited about Daredevil and Kingpin, much like She-Hulk, where everyone every week was like, where's Daredevil? Where's Daredevil? Is this the Daredevil episode? And it's like, I actually think that they kind of dodged a bullet because they released it all at once. And Daredevil is literally in one scene. And in my opinion, I think that is a really great thing and a really good idea for them to do. Have him in it. It fleshes out the world, but it doesn't make things too cameo focused.
Yes.
Like, before we get into full spoilers, the big thing that I just loved is that this strips back everything to one simple location where we can just focus on character. I don't think this series is perfect, but I really, really appreciate that unlike a lot of recent MCU things, it wasn't like, hey, look at the future. We're setting up things in the multiverse and the Kang storyline. It very much felt similar to Guardians 3 in the sense that it was like, no, this is very focused on just the characters, and that is so valuable.
I agree. Should we get into it? Into the spoiler zone?
Let's get straight in. Full spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't seen it. Briefly explain the plot of Echo for those who don't know.
All right. Maya Lopez's ruthless behavior in New York City catches up with her in her hometown. She must face her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and embrace the meaning of family and community.
It's all about family.
Family.
Family. So 5 episodes, which makes this the shortest Disney Plus show.
Yes.
What did you think?
This just felt like a very character-driven show that we get to focus on Maya. And I was really happy that we got to see this change of pace in the MCU because they were just focused on the Kang storyline, you know, building up this anticipation for the future films. But this was something that was so fresh, looking at deaf representation and Native American as well. And we get to see a character, you know, that's fleshed out in 5 episodes. And the one problem that I was just struggling with was like, can we just explore more of that? Or, you know, it just felt like there was a lot to explore with that. But I was really happy that this show was very accessible. Like, you don't have to have loads of knowledge of the MCU to watch the show directly, because the first episode will literally guide you as the audience who have no idea what the show is. That is just amazing. You know, you can really bring people who haven't seen it, and you don't have to watch 30 movies and other TV shows just to get into this show. you could just watch it and you can see Daredevil for 2 minutes. But no, you can go into more depth with the character of Maya, which I thought was pretty cool to see because I thought she was like a badass throughout the show.
Yeah.
And there was some really, really cool fight sequences that I was just so happy to see because
Mm.
recently with the MCU, it was just all CGI, it's oversaturated. But this one, I was just like, oh my god, it's Daredevil again. It's gonna be like all the fight scenes with the amazing cinematography that was, implemented in a few episodes. But it was just a really nice change of pace. That's why I can describe it. It was just
Yeah.
really nice to see.
100%. I didn't even consider that, but you're right. The first episode is so great because it's just like, here's everything you need to know. And I would say maybe 3 minutes of it is scenes from Hawkeye, but it feels like the first project in so long that is like, this is completely removed from everything else. Even the conflict with Kingpin, it's so closely focused with his relationship with Maya, and therefore you're right, you just don't need that extra stuff. And the Daredevil cameo is so great because it's not like a woo, yeah, Daredevil, everyone cheer, and
Yeah,
like
baby.
he can be there and he can say like a catchphrase and then he just
I'm
leaves like,
Daredevil.
it's me, Daredevil. He says his
It's
iconic
me.
catchphrase, "I can't see," and then he just kind of does his thing. No, he like he comes in. He has a really cool like fight scene, and that's that, right? And then we
That
move
was
on, and
so cool.
it's used as a way to show Maya's skill, to show like, I mean, that entire sequence, one take action scene is also the first time that we see Maya kill someone, and we really get to kind of unpack. This is the beginning of a downward spiral for her, like working for
Mm,
Kingpin. She kind of lives in this cycle of violence. There, it's really, really interesting stuff. And just to kind of see Daredevil kick ass, do his thing, and then leave. He doesn't need to be a big part of the story. He doesn't need to
yeah.
overstay his welcome. But it also makes the universe feel so much more alive and so much more rich. He can show up and he can be a part of it without having to be like the main guy, without having to be like, tune in next week because Daredevil's going to be back. It's like, no, he's there and he's a part of it, and they acknowledge that, but they also move on.
Yeah.
I rewatched Hawkeye before this show, and
Yes, I
I
heard about this.
love
Yeah.
Hawkeye so much. Like rewatching it, I was like, yeah, this is still peak. Obviously, it's not a perfect show, but I think it's just so, so enjoyable. And I think the
Mm,
characters are really, really interesting. I think Maya in that show is so, so fascinating. And you kind of see it in Hawkeye, but here we really get to unpack that she is just a person who is consumed by anger and a life of pain. And
mm,
Echo really emphasizes that Maya is a part of and a victim of a cycle of violence. The opening of episode 4 or 5, I think, is where we see Kingpin beating to a bloody pulp this ice cream vendor who won't give her ice cream because doesn't understand her signing. And it's really just like interesting. And you see, even her as a kid, like she has that same anger in her. And this whole thing, we go into that side. They don't
mm.
really shy away from the fact that she hasn't been a good person. So many like comic book things about villains are like, yeah, but the villain's actually a good guy. Like, like the Venom films, for instance, or like, those kind of
Yeah.
thing where they're like, yeah, the villain actually is a good person. But it's like,
Mm.
no, they actually really do critique Maya and what she has done throughout her life, and what she wants to do. Like she wants to dethrone Kingpin so she can be the queen, not because what he's doing is wrong, but because she wants that power. And that's very, very interesting to unpack. In that way, she feels like a very different kind of MCU protagonist.
Yes, a very flawed protagonist that you don't get to see often in the MCU. And I really liked how we get to explore the psychological side of Maya. We get to see her, in the deaf world, but it's like you are in that perspective. And the sound design just really greatly helps the audience to go into that perspective, in the deaf world. And to feel that idea of like she had to go through all those emotions, and it's like, how does she unpack all of those emotions in communicating it, but also like discovering about herself. So that was like the strongest points with the show, and the theme was self-discovery, but learning about yourself and there's loads to unpack from Maya's character, and it was just so interesting to see throughout the 5 episodes. And I felt so happy that we got to see a lot of signing. You know, the signing was really implemented so well with the performance, with the actors, and also it was really nice to hear from the actor Alaqua. We got to hear from her that she felt comfortable with people who were signing on set, and everybody learned how to sign on set. What was the most amazing thing as well, that she got to be the protagonist of the show.
Yeah.
That is so cool to see. And there was deaf writers as well who were part of the show, and they
Oh,
got to,
really?
yeah, and that was the most
Brilliant.
amazing bit as well. So you don't get to hear that often. It's just like they get to help everybody each other out, trying to tell, different perspective. And as well with Native Americans, like they got to tell the story as well. So they got to work together, and like how could they get the deaf world and then with the Native American roots as well. And it's like so unique. And I thought that was just like the highlight. You get to see that all the way throughout the show. And it just felt like a bit of a vibe, honestly, with the family. That was just really nice to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. Comic book things, superhero things, if they can represent anyone, any kid, any adult, and make them feel seen, then like, boom, that's what has made so many recent comic book films so special. Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman, Shang-Chi, films that do shine a light on things that are conventionally less important. And that's just so amazing this does it. I really appreciated because you always get a lot of criticism with these kind of Disney Plus shows that they are essentially movies that have been stretched out into a TV show. And that's definitely sometimes the case. Other times I disagree. But this one, I think they actually used the format quite well. In 5 episodes, each one is named
Mm.
after a different character, each being different levels of this lineage that she comes from, this indigenous population from throughout time who have passed down this power that she gains. A power that allows her to literally echo through generations, which I thought was interesting. I found it a little bit confusing, but I thought that the
Yeah,
core
I
the, the,
understand
the
that.
the
Yeah.
core emotion of like connecting back to her roots, like she gets a really, really great costume at the end. I really enjoyed like the embroidery in that and the way that it kind of like it connects her to her roots. That was just all really, really nice to see those kind of connections. And they utilize that really well. And I think that they also managed to tell a really effective story about somebody who does start as a villainous figure, who becomes a lot more sympathetic because she confronts her pain and she uses her heritage and her family to move beyond like the violence that has defined her. I think that was just so beautiful. Like the moments where like she talks to her mum, like she has like this kind of echo, this vision of her mum, and she gets a chance to kind of speak to her. And that is like the moment where she finds resolve. And the way that she defeats Kingpin at the end is so interesting, and I kind of loved it because she doesn't
Yes.
beat him in a brawl. She doesn't prove herself as physically or mentally stronger than him. She just gives him the ability to let go of his pain in the same way that she has. And it's perfectly telling about Kingpin's character and about Echo's character that Echo, she will let go of that pain. Whereas when Kingpin gets that chance, it confuses him and it angers him and it makes him go even more into the pain and the anger that he feels, and it will make him even more violent. I'm sure when Daredevil Born Again comes out, or whatever we next see Kingpin in, we will see that he didn't do that. It feels very much like Daredevil because of how closely Maya and Fisk are connected and how the show is really kind of like about the dichotomy between the two. I mean, it's not Daredevil, is it? It's not as
It's
well
not Daredevil.
shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as well shot. It's not quite as engaging, but I do think that this has a lot of the identity of Daredevil in all the best ways.
I agree with that, and especially there was like a bit of a parallel to when spoilers. There's going to be another bit of a spoiler if you haven't seen Daredevil season 3. There was a bit when Daredevil actually beat
Yeah.
Kingpin.
Brilliant, brilliant
Place, yeah,
scene.
brilliant, yeah, and it's like Kingpin actually wants Matt to kill him, and it was like
Hmm.
he wouldn't do it because it goes against with his principles. But that was like that parallel to Echo, where Kingpin is stuck in this loop of violence, this
Mm.
awful cycle of violence that he keeps drawing attention to, making situations even worse. And I thought that was a really strong parallel with that. he's getting that self-discovery of himself with the past and the hammer he used to kill with his father. That was a cameo with the hammer.
It was. It was really cool that they kind of connected that, even though I don't know if you saw this, but it's actually a different hammer. Like,
Yes, I saw this.
do you
Yeah,
think
I
he
was
just
like,
got like a
wait,
random hammer and he was like, "This is the hammer from when I was a boy." Like, he just kind of was just like, "This is the one," and it actually was
when
just
I was a
absolute.
boy, this was the hammer I used.
I
It's
love
like
that. It was great having like Kingpin back to do his classic "When I was a boy."
when I was a boy.
Maya, you don't understand. Like, I do think this
Vanessa
show
left
is.
me.
Vanessa, like this show is at its best, episodes 1, 4, and 5, because you
Yeah,
do get to really focus on that. I wonder whether maybe the show would have been better if it was 4 episodes. I did kind of feel like in the middle there was a bit of a lack of tension. I didn't really feel
yeah.
a lot of danger. We just kind of mill around for about 2 episodes. I mean, we have the really cool like train heist and the fight in the like roller rink.
Oh, that was so
And
cool.
like, yeah, those
That was
things are
so
all
cool.
really like effective, right? But I feel like when it comes to the overall kind of like pace, it did kind of like lag a little bit, which is very in keeping
Yeah.
with Marvel shows because all the Defenders series stuff, they
Ah,
also
yes,
quite
the
often are
defenders.
like dip in the middle for a little bit. But yeah, it was really good to see Kingpin. And I feel like there was a really interesting kind of like level of humanity and vulnerability to him. Like, for
Yes.
example, you kind of see that Maya is almost like a daughter to him, and he's conflicted because he cares about her, but only in a way of like, how can he use her? In Daredevil, the show, he learns Chinese so he can like get higher in the criminal underworld. So he can work with Madame Gao and the Hand. In this show, he doesn't even bother to learn sign. Over the course of like 20 years, doesn't even bother to learn American Sign Language.
And he's
And
like,
it
hey,
like
Maya, I got this technology for you. I can
check out what
help
I
you.
got. Yeah.
Hey, you can see it now. Oh
Yeah.
my God. And it's like, really?
He got it straight from Justin Hammer. That my headcanon is that whenever a villain in the MCU has like a piece of technology, they got it from Justin. They got it from Sam Rockwell, of
Do you think
course.
Justin's still alive in the MCU?
Oh, apparently he's going to be in Armor Wars. So watch this space.
I have no idea how, he's gonna be like, Iron Man 2. Like that was the most amazing thing, in Iron Man 2 with Justin Hammer. He's like, yeah, I made this technology better than Tony Stark. And he's like
I
coming
love that
back
bit at
years
the end
later.
when Rhodey's like, "I'm gonna bust this guy's bunker with the ex-wife," and he shoots it, and it like this missile that's been really set up as like the biggest shit, and then like it fires and it does nothing. And Tony just says hammer tech, and Rhodey just goes, "Yeah, I love that kind of stuff."
Hammer.
Back to Echo. I think it was really great that we also kind of stayed in one location, and that was just kind of like everything that we explored. I think it's really cool that we can just kind of like take a breather and not have to go on this kind of globe-trotting adventure.
Yeah, in Oklahoma. Yeah, in Oklahoma.
Yes,
I was like really glad to see that it was like kind of alive, with this town. You get to see Maya driving on a motorcycle around the place. But there was a lot of things that were kind of lacking for me. I wish there was more family tension. It was
sure.
really lacking a lot because, with Maya's. Is it cousin? Maya's cousin. Yeah. When
Yes.
she left and she didn't come back for her and she hasn't seen it for a long time. I wish there was like a really nice way to wrap it up or maybe extend, a lot of stuff what Mai has been through with this cycle of violence and how can she escape it. That was the one problem that I was like, we could have seen a bit of that, like in some because the tension was lacking, and I wish there was a way to see that family tension all the way throughout the episodes. Because again, you did say there wasn't really any tensions. That was just a few things that I was
Yeah,
like,
there's I
oh,
mean there's a lot of characters, and I think that with the time that we have afforded to them, you could have kind of stripped down like like Maya's main like friend who works at the roller rink. Like you could have made him a member of the family. Like let's make that a bit interesting. The idea that he's kind of keeping this secret from everyone else. Like there are things to be done there, but we did get Billy Jack, who is my favorite cat. The dog, absolute just iconic
the
all the
dog. Oh,
time.
what was his
That
name?
like
Billy Jack, right?
Billy Jack, yeah.
Yeah,
Every
Billy
single
Jack.
time, like I can't remember his owner's name, but I mean that's telling, isn't it?
Biscuits.
I don't Biscuits. I don't even remember the owner's name, and I remember Billy Jack. But every time Biscuits would be like, "Hey, come on, Billy Jack," I'd be like, "I love you, Billy Jack. I would die
Oh,
for
Billy
you."
Jack, the best character. Oh my God. Oh, he's gonna steal the show. Imagine that
He's
there's a
go-
show
he's
called
he's
Billy
gonna be an
Jack.
Avenger.
He's gonna fight against Kang. Oh my God. Yeah, he's gonna do that. But I'm really, what's really interesting is that it's like slowly building up to the other shows, like with the Spotlight shows as well. But with like
Yeah.
Daredevil, that's going to be a unique approach to the character that we haven't seen for a long time, like 2018.
Yeah, and we now know
And
that Daredevil wasn't snapped. Like during the
yes,
blip, he was alive. So like now that the Defenders shows are in the MCU, and now that we know that Foggy and Karen are going to be in Born Again, there's a lot to explore there. And
yippee!
that could yeah, like that could be really, really interesting to kind of go into that without making it all about the multiverse and about Kang and about all these bigger things. Like, you can still acknowledge the world, make things fit into the world without it all being about this bigger story. I think that's what made the Infinity Saga so good. And that's why Echo worked as part of the universe because it didn't
Yes.
end with like the tease we got at the end was Fisk being like, "Oh, I'm gonna be mayor again," which is really interesting because like
Yeah.
it feels like on much a smaller level that we're setting things up, not like
Yes.
at the end of the Marvels, spoilers for the Marvels, I guess. We
Uh,
wake up at like like we're just being like, hey, look, it's another
ah,
universe. It's
the
like
beast.
whereas
Yeah.
sure. A lot of the projects do feel a bit like that, but this was just such a breath of fresh air. And it's the first TVMA MCU
Yay.
show. I mean, I guess like new guard of MCU shows, kind of like post like Disney Plus. The action is pretty good. Like it was so raw and so like violent, and I thought that was actually really great to see because who doesn't love just a bit of unhinged violence in a comic book thing?
Yeah, this was just so engaging to watch, with the action because, as I said earlier, the MCU has lost the touch with, with the fight sequences. And what I found really interesting looking at these shows, Echo was like character driven, and then Loki, it was like drama driven as well. Like, it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
kind of
definitely.
sci-fi, and there wasn't a lot of fight sequences in that. But I like the direction that, going for the shows, like they're going to the psychological side to the characters and like how far are they going to go in this journey? And I thought that was just shown really well in Echo. But yeah, I wish it. Yeah, I agree with it. It should be like 4 episodes to have that level of tension, and I thought it was just really engaging to see that. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, what do you think? Like, okay, so we've now had Echo, and before that we had Loki. Is Marvel TV back? Is that like, have we done it? Have we managed
Um.
to like get? Because obviously, Secret Invasion was rough, and
uh,
She-Hulk was all right. Miss Marvel, Moon Knight were all right, but like there was definitely a peak with WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye, and then we really kind of went downhill a little bit. And then I feel like maybe this is like this has got to be the best Marvel TV. Like these last two seasons have been some really, really strong stuff since like Hawkeye.
I so agree with that. Loki had a beautiful ending, and Hawkeye was such a vibe. I was just like, I need to rewatch it again. That was just so comfy. But Secret Invasion, no. And there was like shows. Oh, and She-Hulk. I thought that was pretty cool. Oh yeah, Moon Knight. Got
Yeah,
about
Moon Knight
Moon Knight.
happened. Sure. I feel like it's
Sure.
interesting because, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, they're definitely shows that were made to have a second season, but we don't even know if they're going to, like, recently Tatiana Maslany was like, yeah, no, we're not getting a She-Hulk season two. And I
Oh
think that's a shame because I think She-Hulk could actually be an enduring show. Like, oh, I know Loki got 2 seasons, but I could see She-Hulk going on for numerous seasons. Like, there's a lot of potential there. It's just a shame
yeah,
that people are idiots.
yeah,
And misogyny aside, people who don't want to have fun with the show, people who expect Daredevil, people who expect it to be one thing, there definitely is a part of me that just kind of thinks we've kind of wasted, like the MCU has tried a lot of new things recently. And in a lot of ways, I feel like the audience has wasted it as much as the MCU has. There's been fair amount of things where it's like you could have cooked with this and you didn't. But there's also been stuff where it's like you did cook with this and people just don't really care. And it makes me question like what we're gonna do
yeah.
going forward. Like we talked about this last week, but like where's the MCU going? Like, we have Deadpool 3 on its way, we have Agatha on its way. I just hope they're more like Echo because Echo, it wasn't afraid to be character driven and vulnerable and emotional, and it really hit. I thought I did think it was really effective.
I agree that so well, and I think this is a show to watch if you're not a fan of the MCU or you just want to see something cool out of the MCU. I think this is something that was just quite character driven, and I thought it was a really cool story to go through. What are you gonna give it out of 10, Tom?
Ooh, there's a question. I think 8 out of 10 or 7 maybe.
Ooh,
I think
I'm gonna
I
go
think
7.
right, okay. I think I'm gonna go 8 just because like this represents so, like as a show probably 7, but the fact that it's like the first MCU show to kind of truly feel disconnected from like a larger storyline in a
Yes,
while is
exactly.
like
Yeah.
I feel like that deserves an 8. So
Yes.
big thumbs up to
I
that.
agree. Yeah, I
Well done,
agree with that.
everyone.
And yeah, just building up with the smaller shows that we have, like Daredevil and, possibilities. This brings up a lot of possibilities,
Yeah, I
thanks to
mean, this is
Echo.
exciting. The street level of the MCU with the Defenders and with Spider-Man and with Kate Bishop and with Echo and with Kingpin, that is exciting because it doesn't feel like it feels like there's still potential. The multiverse, the Kang stuff, it feels like we've done it. It feels like we hit the peak and now we are just kind of like still trying to find ways to make it exciting. Whereas this is actually what excites me about the MCU right now.
It's going to be exciting.
Thank you everybody for listening. If you're listening on YouTube and you enjoyed, you can like and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can follow and give us a 5-star review if you think we're worthy. Next week, we're going to be doing Poor Things, which is just such a crazy, cool, experimental like film. I love January. We always get so many cool films at award seasons. And so you can send us an email at alstimefilmpod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on Poor Things and ask us any questions and we'll answer it right here on the podcast next week. What are you laughing about?
I just can't wait to talk about it. For those who are listening right now, you must be, what is John talking about? All will be revealed next week.
Yeah,
For Poor
same bat
Things. Yeah.
time, same bat channel.
Yes. And you can follow us on Instagram at Out of Time Film Pod to see our incredible thumbnails from Zain Afzal, on Twitter for more thoughts from Tom, and TikTok to see edited clips, which are all also on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. And you can find links to that all in the description below. Thanks to Jones-Meyer for the excellent theme and Ronan Phillips for vocals as always. And I think that's everything.
Wow, what a way to start off 2024 with a good
Yes.
MCU thing. Like
Yes.
what a surprise.
It was, yeah, very surprising, and I can't wait to see a project like these. This is like definitely a passion project.
Yeah, I guess we'll see where the MCU goes this year. See you in July, I guess.
Yeah, it's July. Wait, is that the next one?
Yeah, Deadpool.
Oh,
Yeah, so we've got a whole 6
yeah.
months off.
We don't have to talk about the MCU for 6 months. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
We can rest. Take what you're given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.